Mr. Speaker, I heard some of the learned senator from the other side, and I was really amazed. And at one point, Mr. Speaker, amused. The senator opposite, Mr. Speaker, he spoke until he contradicted himself over and over. I don't even know if he was aware that he was doing that. And so maybe he wasn't born during the 1980s. You're speaking about this, that he wasn't born. So I have to remind him of a couple of things which he said, which he seemed to have a little bit confused in his mind. And I want to start, Mr. Speaker, with his own words that he prefers a progressive tax system. So he prefers a progressive tax system. And I am amused and amazed. The same senator, Mr. Speaker, was taking praise for the People's Action Movement for abolishing personal income tax. So I want to know, what sort of tax is personal income tax? I would like to ask the senator and anybody else to answer me, what sort of tax is personal income tax? Because when PAM went into power in 1980, his party, there was a tax regime, basically called personal income tax. And Mr. Speaker, is interesting. It went in February, and by Act number 14 of 1980, they quickly abolished it in 1980. Mr. Speaker, it was assented to in September 1980. And one of the interesting features of that act, Mr. Speaker, is that by Section 5, it was made retroactive to the 1st of May 1980. Think about that, Mr. Speaker. They went into power in February. Introduced and abolished a progressive tax. Which is, he said the opposite is now saying, I like progressive taxes, but his party, and he took credit for it today, abolished personal income tax, which is a progressive tax, Mr. Speaker. And here when they abolish it, in September 1980, they weren't there too long, so it's one of their first acts. It was like high on the list that personal income tax had to go. It was very high on the list. And by Section 5 of the Act, they made it retroactive to the 1st of May 1980. Think about that, Mr. Speaker. Think about that. And today I'm hearing the senator opposite saying that he loves progressive taxes. Mr. Speaker, somebody have to explain how to me. How is it you could love all these progressive taxes and the first act of your party is to abolish a progressive tax? More than that, Mr. Speaker. More than that. More than that, Mr. Speaker. A personal income tax. He said he's standing up for poor people. Well, I nearly did with laugh. It's a good thing I wasn't in here. Mr. Speaker, the senator opposite say, oh, poor people will this, and poor people. You're defending poor people to the heights. Mr. Speaker, poor people never paying a personal income tax. Poor people were not paying personal income tax. And they abolished personal income tax. They abolished personal income tax, Mr. Speaker. Who love poor people so much? They love poor people so much, the senator said. He tried to give the impression as though he loves poor people so much. Abolish personal income tax, which poor people did not pay. And not only that, you know, look at the taxes they replaced it with, Mr. Speaker. Remind them of that, yeah? Look at the taxes that they replaced personal income tax with, and I want to know what is progressive about them. Maybe the member opposite the senator doesn't know about those days. I don't say he wasn't born then, Mr. Speaker. He just came up. He wasn't born then. And I want to mention some of the taxes, Mr. Speaker, that personal income tax that they abolished was replaced with. It was replaced with hotel and restaurant tax, cable TV tax, insurance premium tax, vehicle rental tax, public entertainment tax, traders tax, withholding tax, departure tax, and Mr. Speaker, we're going to go on and on. All of these taxes, Mr. Speaker, would be applied across the board.
Everybody would never
across the board. So they remove the tax that poor people never paid and replace it with a number of taxes, more than eight, across the board taxes that will affect every single person in this country. And then I hear today how they love progressive taxation. Mr. Speaker, we got to understand who we're really dealing with here. The sort of, contradictions that we're dealing with here in this country, Mr. Speaker. It reminds me, Mr. Speaker, but you can't help, the senator opposite is true to form to his party. That is the way they operate. Don't forget, Mr. Speaker, they went quickly to and had electoral reform in this country. They met a system where you had to live for a particular time, be resident for a particular time in a constituency in order to vote in that constituency. They went and removed it, removed the time frame, removed the residential requirement, lived with that for all of their life in government. They saw nothing wrong with it throughout their days. And as soon as they get beaten at their own game, they start to ball fraud. Fraud. Not fraud for all the time they're there. But when they don't lose on the same system that they remove. And guess what? They come back around to say, put back in time. As the senator trying to suggest today, put back in the personal income tax. It's the same thing. But that is the People's Action Movement for you. They really have no sort of principle in terms of what they stand for. But whenever it is convenient, whatever is convenient, the politics of convenience, they will say and do whatever they think is convenient for that particular moment. And we have the same thing coming today with this argument in here about personal income tax. Please. Mr. Speaker, another thing that really amazed me and amused me was to hear how much growth we had during them days. We had a lot of growth, and we had all the statistics to show how much growth we had. But I will just ask the senator opposite and the People's Action Movement one question. One question. With all the growth that we had, in the terms, the whole of the time they built about 300 houses. A lot of growth. And people had a lot of money, they say. So I don't know, and a lot of plumbers and a lot of everything. And 300 houses they built for the 15 years that they did. A lot of growth, a lot of money, and everything was overflowing. So I do not know what people were doing with their money. It had to be that it was in the bank safe and people have a lot of money in the bank. Because we couldn't see it in the country. By contrast, Mr. Speaker, this Labour government have built over 3,000, which is 10 times the amount of houses for the same period. We're on a growth, but we built over 3,000 homes for people. And people feeling it where it is working for them in terms of empowering them, in terms of their ownership of homes and land in this country for that period of time. But with all the growth we had, 300 houses. And if you want to understand where growth is, he mentioned a firm called TDC. That's a good firm to go to. Because I will challenge the senator to go and check the TDC reports. I don't think anybody over here to write them. And I don't think they're written by people who particularly like this government. And Mr. Speaker, when you look at the TDC reports, they will tell you the most money they ever made in the history. They say so in the reports, not me say so, you know. The most money they ever made in their history is since this government is in power. The most money they ever make in the history. And that would also be showing up in Hartford report and the reports of other local businesses, Mr. Speaker. Local businesses. So I really don't understand growth. I'm not an economist, so I don't understand growth.